Hi guys, I'm Kevin and welcome to my channel. In a couple of recent trip videos, I've had an awful lot of comments about why I have a third seat in not one, but two of my boats. Today, I'm going to answer that question. Why do I have a third seat? It's all about trim. So this is my newest boat. It's a Novacraft 16-foot Prospector made with Expedition Tough Stuff. I had it out on my recent trip to St. Raphael where we did some whitewater. It handled extremely well in those conditions. It's a great boat. And this is the third seat. This is a center seat that I ordered from Novacraft. It's an aftermarket product, normally added to a larger boat, like a 17 or an 18-foot boat, to allow a third paddler to sit somewhere in the middle of the boat. But I've got it mounted right here behind the bow seat. Why have I done that? Well, let's talk about the seats and trim of a boat. Normally, you're going to have two paddlers in a boat like this, and one paddler will sit in the stern seat, the other one will sit in the bow seat, and you'll paddle the boat in this direction. And if both paddlers are about the same weight, you're going to have relatively good trim. Trim is how the boat sits in the water from bow to stern. Think about trim as what gives your boat efficiency. If your boat is relatively flat in the water, or maybe the bow is slightly up, you're going to have good trim and minimal drag. However, if you have more weight in the front of the boat, maybe the bow paddler is a bigger person, and then the bow is going to push down into the water, increasing your drag. Conversely, if you have a very light paddler in the front and a heavy paddler in the back, the bow is going to lift up out of the water, making it difficult to control in wind or waves. So for two people, if you're on a trip, you want to adjust your gear and make sure the boat is nice and trim.
And many canoe builders offer a sliding bow seat as an option. This lets the bow paddler move themselves backward or forward in the boat to adjust trim.
Things are going to be a little bit different if you're a solo paddler. If you're alone in this boat, sitting in the stern, the bow is certainly going to come up out of the water. And if you look back in old photographs of solo people canoeing, you'll often see this, where the bow is up out of the water. And it's not a big deal if it's not a windy day. But as soon as there's wind or waves, that paddler is going to have a lot of issues trying to control the boat. So a very common solution to this problem, especially if you have a symmetrical boat. A symmetrical boat has the same shape going forward as it does going backwards. Not all boats do, but Prospectors and many other designs do. The solution typically is to sit in the bow seat facing backwards and paddle the boat in the opposite direction. You can think of trim in terms of the center of gravity of the boat. The closer the center of gravity is to the center thwart of the boat without going forward, the better trim you're going to have. And so that's a good solution. Sitting backwards in the bow seat is a very good solution.
The control of the boat won't just be lost because the bow is sticking up and catching a lot of wind. Objects tend to spin around their center of gravity, so if the center of gravity is at one end of the canoe, the wind is going to spin the boat around until the boat equalizes. If the center of gravity is in the middle of the boat, then any wind will just blow that boat sideways.
So that's the traditional solution, and it's what I've done for many years. I've sat in the bow seat when I'm traveling solo, paddling in the other direction, and I'll load my gear forward to help balance the trim. And most of the time that works pretty good, but I was still having difficulty with my Cirrus Riverboat. I was doing that on a number of trips, and this has been going on for a number of years now. Under gusty conditions, I was losing control of the boat. Not a huge deal, but it's just frustrating on a longer trip, and you want to have control of your boat all the time. Anytime you're having difficulty controlling your boat in wind or waves, another solution is to kneel in your boat and move your body towards the center. Kneeling lowers the center of gravity in the boat, and it brings the center of gravity of the boat more towards the middle, and you'll get your control back. My problem is that I suck at kneeling. I've always sucked at kneeling in the boat ever since I was a kid. I've got short, thick, stocky legs, and they don't fold very well. And when I kneel in a boat, even after 10 minutes, I've got pretty serious discomfort, and that'll turn into pain. So I just have a problem kneeling in the boat. Another common solution you'll see, many solo whitewater paddlers will add a kneeling thwart. That's another thwart added back here, usually on a bit of an angle, and the idea is that you kneel on the canoe, putting your butt on the thwart, and that helps connect you to the canoe and makes your paddling more efficient. It also brings your center of gravity more towards the center of the boat. but a kneeling thwart still requires kneeling. So my solution, instead of a kneeling thwart, is to add another seat. And this has worked really, really well for me. It brings my weight forward in the boat. I still load my gear in the front of the boat. I get pretty good trim out of it, and I haven't had any problems since I've done that. Another question I've had is, hey Kev, why haven't you removed those extra seats? And that's certainly something I could do. It would lower the weight of the boat on portages for me. It would give me more room to adjust my gear, and gear wouldn't get caught on the seat when I move it in and out of the boat. That's certainly something I could do, and not a bad idea, except I know myself, and if I take these seats out, I'm going to unscrew all the hardware. I'll put it in a Ziploc bag or something. I'll tape it to the seat. I'll put it away someplace and maybe forget where I put it. Or I might lose some of the hardware or something. Something like that always happens to me. So if that's your thing, go ahead. But I just know I'm going to have less headaches in the future. When my wife says, hey, let's go tandem paddling in that canoe, the seats will be in it, and all I have to do is remove this one. But not a bad idea. The other problem is on the Souris Riverboat, the seats are not hung like this. They are riveted to the sides of the hull, and it's part of the structure of the boat, and you really can't remove them. In my opinion, that's a bit of a design flaw that Souris River has. They're pretty proud of that structure, and it creates some efficiencies because you don't have to add extra thwarts, but it also means that the boat can't be adjusted for unique situations. Another thing to consider if you're going to be paddling your boat backwards quite often is to change the direction of the yoke around. This yoke is facing backwards in the boat towards my new direction of travel. This one isn't. This is the boat I first added the seat to, and when I was on a trip with this, I realized I was paddling to the portage. I would get out, pick up the boat, have to turn the boat around, portage the boat, turn it around again, and put it down. So changing the orientation of your yoke just creates a little more efficiency, and you're not spinning that boat around every time you portage it. So that is why I have a third seat in my boat. I don't intend to be buying lots and lots of boats, but if I ever buy another 16-foot boat for solo tripping, I will be adding a third seat to it for sure. It improves the trim of the boat, makes the boat more efficient in the water, and gives you better control in windy and wavy conditions. Thanks guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you got something out of this. If you did, please hit like, share, and subscribe. As always, I'll see you in the next one.